Welcome to Spotlight on Frazee.
I'm going to stop you 1 second. Okay.
Welcome to Spotlight on Frazee. I'm your host, Hank Ludtke, and I'm here once again with Terry Shannon. Hi, Terry.
Morning, Hank. How are you doing today?
Tremendous. And as you remember last week, we were talking about some of the things Terry had found out at the old trading post, and we talked about some of the shells and room keys and some of the other things. But here we are in the next box here, Terry, and what all do we have here?
Well, actually, if you look at it, it looks like a bunch of junk. You know, and I guess it is, but it's all, you know, this corner here is all pottery shards. You know, and of course I wasn't able to pick these up with my detector. These are things that I just actually, you know, as I was going through to pick up off the ground. Mm-hmm. Here's an interesting piece of glass. It's an old bottle, but you can see that it's been through a fire. Uh-huh. You know, the buildings out there burnt down, and they had burnt down by 1890. So, you know, this was actually in the building probably when the fire took place, you know. But it's you know, a lot of, here's another part of an old bell.
Uh-huh. And here's one that's got some writing on it.
You know, when I seen that, I went back.
Number 22, maybe.
Yeah. When I seen that later on that day, when I found it, I went back and tried to find the rest of it, because most of the stuff was above ground, and I would like to have gotten the date, you know, on that. But it's coming in. Now that's pretty ornate.
Yes,
you know,
it is.
For that day and age, you had to come off
it looks like a stopper or something, or yeah, maybe a knob for a drawer or something, huh?
No, I think you're probably right on the stopper. You know, it just some of these bottles, and you can see the old bottles. You know, the next to the bottles, these had the cork. Mm-hmm. You know that. You know, there was no screw caps at that days or pop tops. These are with the old cork that went into those. And over here, I got a couple axe heads. Wow. You know, and when you go over these with your detector, and this one, a little bit of the wood is still inside the axe head. But, you know, and I've got one horseshoe. Now, the ox carts, they pull them with, you know, they talk about pulling them with oxen, and they did. But they actually use horses and ponies, and on a couple of occasions, they even had a trained buffalo that they used, if I understand. You know? And of course, here's their lights. You know, these are all mantles from the old kerosene lamps, and you know, just a ton of these things out there. So that's, you know.
And so they're all brass, huh?
Yeah, they're brass, and you know, they're they're very interesting. You know, that's how the other half lived. They just didn't turn on the light. You know, they had.
It was a project. And then I see more tops of bottles too. You know, and.
Yeah, I would like to, you know, somewhere out there they would have had to have a dump, and I would have liked to found that dump and just dig it up. And I'd actually like to go right over the site, because there's, when it burnt down, all the nails and all the metal there just kind of melted out the detector. It'd be fun to take a square and just dig down and see what you could find.
Yeah, you need a student to come up from the university and help you for part of the summer.
Exactly. You could spend a summer out there. Yeah. You know, here's some other stuff. Did you want to take a look at? These are some little, you know, artifacts that I found out there, and of course, my emphasis on coins. Here's one of the oldest coins I found out there is an 1864 2-cent piece. You know, the dimes, these in the 1870s, these are the old seated Liberty dimes. You know, and of course, when you lost something like that, you know, that's at least a week's wages, maybe more. You know, that's a pretty big deal. And there was a token out there. I found 2 of them actually. And the token's a trolley car from down at St. Paul, and you can see, it shows the trolley car being pulled by a horse. So that's kind of neat. And they had, you know, a lot of buttons. Buttons are very ornate. I got 2 of these buttons here that inside it shows a picture of a little fox sitting on a branch. Now, isn't that an ornate button for, you know, that day and age?
We're going to take a break right now, and we'll be right back with Terry and this interesting collection of things that has gone from just about a hobby to an obsession sometimes with them. Welcome back to Spotlight on Frazee. We're here with Terry Shannon, and we're going over some of the things that he's found out on the old ox cart trail at the old trading post. And it's been interesting looking at this stuff, Terry. I mean, it's phenomenal to think about what life must have been like before, you know, when you talk about the lamps and everything else, and then the monies, you know, and you mentioned, you know, like a dime was like a week's worth of work, you know, or wages.
Yeah, it may even been a little bit more than, you know, the week share. These here, the other coins here are pennies, and the newest coin I found out there, the newest was 1890, I believe it's this one. You know, and another thing that's kind of interesting is these rings. You know, take a look at this ring. I mean, it's just, I don't know if it's either brass or bronze, but, you know, there's no precious metal whatsoever. There's really no pattern, nothing in there. You know, and I imagine whoever lost this ring was probably pretty proud of it and to stay, you know. It just, you know, so their life was definitely much tougher. Their children must have traveled with them, because I found a little part of a toy dish, you know, just a little tiny dish, and here is actually part of a leg bone of a porcelain doll. You know, so the children had to be there.
What is there, a pig in that then?
I think that's just dirt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's just dirt I haven't dug out, you know. And over here we've got a bunch of buttons. And the buttons, I'm just amazed at how ornate the buttons were. I had talked earlier about, like, these little buttons here. I found 2 of them out there. I'm sure that there's probably more. But it has a little fox sitting on a branch inside. You really can't make out the detail with the eye, but if I take with my camera, take a picture, you can really see it quite clean. Here's another button that has a crane standing up there, and it's just really well done. And you got to remember, that was back, you know, sometime after 1844 and before 1890 that these things were made.
They couldn't have been cheap when they were bought.
No.
Not with that much work put into them.
No. You know, here's a couple little buttons with the shape of a leaf, you know, and I'm sure that they had a material in there that they were kind of raised. And there's a couple military buttons. These are Civil War stuff, you know, with the, you know, right at the Civil War, right after the Civil War with the eagle. You know, there's a couple of these small ones like that would have actually, there again, you can't see it, it's not cleaned up that well, but it's the eagle, you know, and these would have been on the sleeves of their jackets, you know. And the jewelry, this is, I didn't try to straighten it out, but this, I don't know what this would be, a brooch or what, but you can see it's a flower, and apparently there was a little stone or something in it at one time. And that was probably a pretty fancy piece of jewelry, you know, in those days. And here's another one. It looks to me like a bumblebee or a dragonfly.
Yeah, dragonfly.
You know. And,
yeah, you can see the eyes. And
yeah. And I mean, you know, to recognize it today, they really had to, you know, they did well. And these are buttons, you know, belt, you know, kind of buckles or something like that. I think this is probably from, you can see the latch and that stuff, but very ornate. I don't know exactly where it goes. Here's another one that you know, this may even been part of the harnesses on the oxen and that stuff. But it's just some neat stuff. Here's a heart. And you can see in the back where they had, you know, a pin that went through there. That's just so plain. There is absolutely nothing on that, and it's just either brass or bronze. And it's just a plain heart. I mean, if we were to get one today, we'd have at least 2 or 3 cents stuck into this. Yeah. You know. So, but in them days, I imagine it was pretty important.
And this is interesting.
You know, I don't know what that is. You can see the bottle would have a stopper. It's metal. You know, and I thought maybe like oil, sewing machine oil or something like that. Somebody said perfume. You know, I really don't know. I have some friends that are you know, amateur archaeologists, and they were looking at this stuff, and a lot of the stuff, he just knew it instantly what it was. These little white things over here, these are part of pipe stems, smoking pipes.
Oh, okay.
You know, you've seen in the old days that old little clay pipe. You know, this is part of the stems of the clay pipe. There's got to be a ton of more stuff out there, because on the pottery and the pipe stems and that stuff, you know, I didn't pick them up with my detector. I just seen them laying visibly on top of the ground.
Well, Terry, it's been a pleasure having you on for a couple weeks here on the program. And I know we'll have you back in the future, because I know you're always out looking for things.
So, thank you, Hank. It's a pleasure being here.
With that, we'll catch you on Spotlight on Frazee. So, kiss the wife, hug the kids, and pet the dog, and wave at the neighbors. And have a good week.